Well, it's a bust, guys. It's over. We're giving up. We're quitting the gardening. It's a horrible, horrible experience. It's the worst thing ever. Oh dear God, you know, it's the worst. Let me make a 10-minute video complaining about it. Nah, not really. We're not giving up because, hey, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the disasters of Mother Nature and how you can recoup from it. Because you can always bounce back in a garden. You can always bounce back in a farm. You can always turn something tragic into something good. And today we're going to talk about it. So, in the last 24 hours, we had 3 massive storms. We've had almost 10 inches of rain, and we had 100-mile-per-hour winds, I think 70, and then another 100.
101 is what they clocked out.
And it tore up our garden, knocked everything over. Even all our staked tomatoes were all laying on their sides. We had a lot of picking up to do on that. Unfortunately, we couldn't film it because we were in the middle of rain last night, so we couldn't risk damaging the camera to do this. Maybe it wasn't probably the smartest move on our part to do it while we were in the rain, but we needed to try to get them staked up before the next windstorm came, because that probably would have resulted in more of these tragedies right here. So this is a gardener's delight. I was looking forward to it. As you can see, we have lots of tomatoes on. We're going to talk later about this and possibility of trying to salvage this, because it's only been 24 hours. So we are going to talk about this. But for now, one of the things that you have to understand as a gardener is Mother Nature can be a blessing and can be a nightmare. And we had a rough start at the beginning of this year with getting the plants out and everything. Everything's looking great. We got mass production rolling in. We've had 3 to 4 inches of rain, which has been bad and good, because we've been in a drought, so it's hopefully turning around. But a lot of times when you get lots of water and not enough time for everything to dry out, this is where you get fungus, you get all sorts of diseases on your plants, and you struggle. There's been videos out there that are clickbait about guys talking about, you know, wanting to give up and how it's frustrating. Yes, it is very frustrating. It is incredibly frustrating. But that is one of the challenges when it comes to gardening. You're always going to face some type of problem. Gardening isn't just about reaping the rewards of fruit and vegetables. It's also a challenge in problem solving, because every day is a new challenge or battlefield. And it doesn't necessarily mean drama. It may mean, okay, you got a bunch of ladybugs. How can we keep them here? What do we need to do to keep them here? More ladybug houses, more marigolds. What type of plants do they eat? Okay, you want to bring in praying mantises. What type of stuff do they eat? There's a lot of things that you have to encounter. Spider mites, they hate water, but aphids and all those other bugs come up and really like it and start attacking your plants. There's a lot of different things that can happen. But is it worth it? Yes. I like how you said that at the same time, because it is worth it. It is a struggle, but you have to figure out how to solve every problem. For example, the amount of rain we got, we did stumble upon some tomatoes today that have potentially the wilting fungus. So there's sprays we can choose. More than likely what we're going to do is cut the diseased leaves off because it hasn't spread, which is part of the pruning video that is coming out. I'm talking about this. These were a result of the lower leaves
and the water splashing up onto the leaves from the dirt.
Or when they're knocked on their sides, kind of somewhat bent, and they're so close to the ground and they're just getting inches and inches of rain just dumped on them. There's no hope for them.
Your shade cloth kind of muffles it a little bit, but it's not going to stop it. What happens is when you're getting that much rain, your shade cloth is going to start stretching and lowering and, you know, which is a good thing I have the arch trellises, and help alleviate some of that problem, because I'm training some of my tomatoes to actually grow up the trellis, and they're starting to do what they're supposed to. It's going to be a slow process, but it's going to be absolutely beautiful once they are able to come up and meet in the middle.
And so what she's going to have to do, or I'll have to do, depending on which one of us gets to it first, is we're going to have to go through and cut all the lower leaves that are infected. Consider getting some potash, because there's an MPK video that's going to be coming out very soon on fertilizer and your choice. And potash is a really good source of helping plants fight diseases, heat resistance. It's like a boost to the system. You can't dump a ton of it on there because you will kill the plant all the same. It's just like any type of fertilizer. And so you have to do it strategically. We've already fed the plants a couple of months ago, so it's safe for us to put some diluted potash in there, and it's just a slow release, but we're going to dilute it out with a little bit more water to make sure that it's not getting the full 0,060 dosage at once, because that's not what our goal is. Our goal is just to send these nutrients to the plant to help it resist these fights. Now, there is types of plants you can get that are more disease resistant. Most of ours are disease resistant, but like anything, it's the right foods that we eat and everything that helps our body stay healthy to avoid sickness. It's the same as plants. It's the same as animals. You have to eat the right things. So we have to feed the plants the right things to kind of help what it is. Does that mean we're going to be delaying getting more blossoms? Yes. Right now, it's keeping the plants alive, getting them restored, getting them stronger. So does that mean our production for most of our tomatoes is going to slow down for the rest of June? Probably. And then in July, we'll have to switch over to more blooms, and then we'll face a new challenge, which will be much heavier heat. This is why we have the shade cloth up here, so we can continue to fight Mother Nature and keep our stuff alive. That's the most important thing. The other thing you have to worry about, like tomatoes, is because we've got so much rain, the tomatoes will start swelling and they'll start ripping the skin, and you'll start having deformed looking tomatoes that have openings in them. They'll kind of callus over. They're still edible, but
you can just cut
around it, but they don't look as pretty. That's what would happen if you were to overwater it when you're gardening. And that happens when you get torrential downpour. I mean, 10 inches in less than 24 hours really is unfathomable.
And we'll pay attention. We always do, but we'll pay even closer attention to the weather and when the next potential for rain is and stuff. And like he's talking about putting potash in, we're gonna let these plants kind of dry a little bit for a couple days before we come back with some watered down potash, because we don't want to saturate the ground even more. We want to wait until it's a little bit drier before
probably
we do
about
that.
72 hours is good, because we've got some hundreds coming up, 90s and hundreds coming up the next 4 days, 5 days. Then we'll have a potential downpour again, is what the last forecast is saying. So we got time to let it dry, get it all prepped up, and even then we could also potentially put a little bit in there and not add water if we're feeling pretty sure that you're going to get another downpour. That way it just soaks into the soil, especially raised beds. If it's on the ground, it's going to wash away. I wouldn't recommend that. We have had a lot of flood.
Pets, it's good to just, have it diluted with water and water the plants. And we do our dachshunds out, and they walk around in the garden a lot. They are pretty smart, though. They know when we first start the garden beds, and they get curious and they'll walk around, and we don't yell at them about it. We know, because once the plants start growing and stuff, they know to stay out of there. We tell them no, and they're pretty good about it, unless Wendy gets on hunting mode, and then that's a whole different thing.
But that's the thing. You'll just have to plan and prepare. And we're going to have some really nice tomatoes, and we're going to have some bad tomatoes out of this harvest that's getting ready to come up. It's just the nature of it. But even if you have poles, even if you have cages, even if you go strings, high winds is going to knock stuff down or cause it to start capsizing, because it's just not strong enough against that type of winds. The thing is, tomato plants are resilient. Sometimes they will bend, sometimes they'll snap, but a lot of times they'll fall over or just partially almost collapse, like as if a tree was falling, and you just got to gently ease it back up. I wish we had some footage of that, but like I said, we were in a crunch time last night to try to save the garden at 7 o'clock before the next wave hit. See my post, I said update, oh, it hit again at 9 o'clock with golf ball size hail. Hail's the one you got to worry about. Hail is the one that you cannot prevent. It'll tear through your shade cloth, it will hit your crops, and it will devastate you. That's the one that there's almost no coming back from. But the beautiful part about tomatoes, not necessarily, you know, eggplants or peppers, some of those others, they can come back. This piece here is the top and connecting stem of this Gardener's Delight. There was one sucker on that plant still. We're letting that sucker become the new main line, and it's going to basically take over and do all the producing, and then we'll treat that as the main line because they're resilient. We're going to take this, despite it looking like garbage, and see if we can't save it, because it's got some nice tomatoes on here and a few other things, which we'll probably have to get rid of the tomatoes, unfortunately. But if we can salvage it,
but we'll saute them.
But if we can salvage it, the bottom here should grow roots. This part's gone, but there's one little sucker right here, and I'll have a close-up. We'll have her show in just a second. There is a sucker on here. We can create a whole new life, because this is an indeterminate plant, which in my pruning video I'll cover a lot more indeterminates and indeterminates, because this is the beauty of a lot of the plants we do. They're indeterminate. That way, this is like we're going to try to produce another plant off of another plant.
And so we were kind of lucky and fortunate, because like our watermelon and our cucumbers, those were all fairly recently planted. I haven't had them in the ground a whole lot or in the grow bags. And I did some more research, because even for me and all the years that I've learned watching grandma and great grandma and everything, there's a new cucumber that I really want to try with the containers, and that's by planting bush cucumbers, and there's several different types of those. So I want to try some of the smaller cucumbers that grow in a bush, kind of like the bush beans, and you'll get several of them on one little plant, and see how that goes. So we'll probably be lining up some different planters or grow bags alongside some of these beds, so that way they're still getting the sun that they need, but they're also protected, because once your temperatures do reach those hundreds and those high 90s, it is extremely rough on them. Even if a plant says full sun, it doesn't mean let it bake out there in the sun. My flowers struggle once it starts getting that hot, because I don't have shade cloth up on them. But like my herb garden, I'll be hanging a line of shade cloth up to protect that. There's different things you can do. If you're watching the weather closely though, and you know a severe storm is coming where you've got the potential for a lot of rain, and you've already been pounded and your plants are trying to recuperate, another thing that you can do is make yourself a quick shed type runoff using a tarp. And you just take some posts and your tarp, and you're going to have it go at an angle over your plants so the water can run off away from your garden beds. And even though it saturates the ground around it, you're not having that pounding rain come down onto your plants. So I always make sure that when you're gardening that you keep several of those clear tarps around in case you do need to tarp off some areas.
So in closing, there's a quote from Jurassic Park where they say life finds a way. Life always finds a way. In fact, I'm seeing a couple ladybugs after this torrential downpour on the green beans just in front of the camera. You know, every gardener has these nightmares. You're not alone out there, gardeners that are facing devastation. Just know that there is always ways to come back and have a bigger, better harvest, even when it feels like it's the worst. So
just keep at it and don't give up. Remember, don't be melancholy. You are in your garden. Let us remain happy.
peace.